Hey guys, so we just finished season 3 of Portlandia. It aired on television, and I started to read the reviews, which is a horrible mistake. And the reviewer was saying he had taken a class in sketch comedy writing, and then he watched Portlandia, and he said, they did it wrong. I learned it in the class, and they didn't do it right. And you get frustrated and you go, well, I mean, sure, so what? And then I started to think, well, that was the whole point. I did that on purpose. I wanted to do it wrong. I wanted to do something on television, a medium that is such a perfect medium. It's so tight to time, and everything is just, you've watched TV forever and everything's perfect. What if we did a disaster? We set up a parameter where the mistakes were the part that we were actually trying to get. What? And so what if, and the tenets of sketch comedy, which, trained in, worked in, what if we had those in the back of our mind, but when we went off course and went wrong, that was okay. So what if you do it wrong? What if you tell yourself, the failure is actually what I'm trying to get? It's very liberating. And it's exciting to play in this wrong world because you've seen so much perfect stuff. When you go to a wedding, for instance, and the flower girl, the little, 2-year-old niece, makes a disaster, it's the best thing. She's throwing the flower, no, don't go over there, and it's so exciting to watch. I did go to a wedding where everything went perfectly. Snooze cruise. It was the worst. So Portlandia was, the whole idea of it was to do an art project as a television show, to embrace the wrongness, to do it in this lo-fi universe because that has so much energy to it. So that's what we did, and there's this concept of failing upward. People go, oh, that guy failed and somehow he got hired again. Our failing upward was a badge of honor. We didn't get that take right. That guy tripped over that, that's the take we're gonna use. And a great example was embracing this chaos was, we had a scene in season 2, and the final cut of it, when we were shooting it, we had to put a painting in the background just to fill up the wall space, make it look nice, but it was barely tacked on there. It fell off a couple times. And actually, Sam Adams, the former mayor, it was behind him. So he would, oh, I'll get it, you guys, and he would put it back on. Of course, we're never gonna use that. We did, because it was so funny and so real. And I thought, watching the final scene, how could we ever have written a scene where a painting was falling off the wall? That never would have happened. It would not have worked. So my journey to this chaotic, wrong, choose-your-own-adventure lifestyle, I started as a perfectionist. I loved having things perfect in my mind. When you go out to actually start something, when you have this perfectionism, it's almost becomes paralysis. You cannot move, because as soon as you step into the real world, reality sets in, and it doesn't work. So I couldn't do anything because of this perfectionism, and it was really, one of my idols as a kid was George Lucas, right? As a filmmaker, and he made Star Wars, which is the greatest thing, such an inspiration. To him, Star Wars was wrong. He did it wrong. He wanted his whole life to go back and change it, to fix it. But to me, I went, that's wrong? Star Wars is wrong? You think that's wrong? Wow, that's awesome, because that's what if I could achieve something like that, I would be super excited. Now, many years later, he got to go back and make new ones, and they were done in a way that he didn't get it wrong. He got to do it as he wanted to do it, with so much technical perfection. And it's devoid of humanity. They're not those wrong ones, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, there's so many, to him there's mistakes, but to us, it's awesome. So your own idea of what is wrong can sometimes hold you back. And like to him, to say that it's wrong is such a bummer because I love it. And I think the new ones that aren't wrong, I could do without, as a fan. And another example of having, when you go from this perfectionism in your mind to like going, let's see what happens when we just start throwing, just start juggling and see what happens, is when Monty Python was going to make their movie A Holy Grail, they had written this thing, in writing. You can do whatever you want because you don't know how expensive it is or how logistically complicated it is. It was, a knight's tale with horses and all this stuff. When they stepped out to start making it, they were like, we can't afford horses. This is what are we gonna do? We can't have scenes where we're all on horses. So they came up with this. What if we just have the characters hitting coconuts together? It sounds like horses. And you think, like, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's ridiculous. It's the funniest thing, so that limitations, and this is another big thing about Portlandia, is that it's such a small budget. When I came in, it's produced by a big company that's produced Saturday Night Live, 30 Rock. These are big shows, and they were telling me how they do television. I go, we just don't have the money to do it like that. Let's just embrace how small the budget is and just play with that and just be good with it. So it's really doing things wrong is just embracing the reality and how what you have to work with and just going, that's good. Let's use the coconuts. Trying to go to my next thing here. So historically, there's a lot of precedent for people doing things wrong. There's sort of the punk movement, which is a big inspiration for us in Portlandia. The 70s was all about this perfect rock, this the Eagles just hitting it, great musicians, just perfection, just this bliss, and it's great. But when punk came along, it was like, look, we've got a lot of passion and energy and we want to say something. We can barely play our instruments. and that passion sort of overrides it. There's just so much gutsy energy in there, and that's one thing that we really aspire to, is just that gutsy energy. Our third season of Portlandia, we figured out a lot of things about efficiency and things we could do differently to make it better. And I don't want to do it. I like having one hand tied behind our back, because looking again to music, it's like when a band comes out with its first album, it's the album they recorded in their garage and it's what they did. And their second album is they figured it out. They got a big producer now and it's slick and it's perfect. And it loses that energy. So I always want to keep that energy of well, this is all we've got. We've only got one arm to work with, And also Dadaism was another, just embracing the chaos in art. And I was reading about what is Dadaism, and that one theory is that the name came from when they were the group, the Dadaists were meeting, and they just stabbed into the dictionary and they looked at it and it had stabbed right into Dada, just in the dictionary, which I can't even remember what that meant. So that they just embraced that, and I think it's just exciting. It's funny too, because making the show, we're doing it with a lot of unconventional ways of making television. I was really inspired by a lot of video art that I had seen, where it's just narrative in weird ways and different weird camera angles and stuff. And working with actors and working with regular people with actors, and you never know what those people are going to say. It's all improvised. There's no script. So every take, as the director, I just get to watch. And it's so exciting to watch. And I realized that, you're working with you're working with people. And we're juggling with people and emotions and all these different things. And as a perfectionist, when you're just kind of everything's perfect, and a lot of people call directors they think of actors as props. Step here, say your line, go over here, and we'll get the coolest shot because you hit your mark perfectly. But what if you just got some awesome personalities together, and just let them sort of drive it. And I always try to tell myself, don't do cool shots, like figure it out later. Don't impose your own thing on it. Let it develop organically and see what happens, and then come in and go, now I see what we can do. And I realized that acting is such a make-believe kind of thing. It's so wrong that, we have our own experience. To act is to create a false reality and stick to it. And, acting is really hard. And so I realized that the reputation that a lot of actors and Hollywood has in general is like, what a bunch of cuckoo crazy people. They're getting, they're drinking smoothies and, they go crazy. Well, guess why? Because they have to pretend. They have to override their system of reality and go I'm going to pretend I'm in space and all this stuff. So it's what acting is doing things wrong. Let them do what they need to do to get there. I mean, come on. It's crazy. So that is such a wrong thing to do, but it's so exciting. It's hard work to do things wrong. Because if you did things correctly and efficiently, you just do it, we got it, let's move on. Okay, got it, move on. Timing, we got it. When you're doing things wrong, you get to step 2 and you go, you know what? Let's go back to step 1. That didn't really work. You got to put on the brakes and kind of stretch out and figure out what you're doing in the spot. You've got a schedule for your day. You want to hit those marks, but if you want to make something exciting and new and you do it wrong, we got to go back to number 1. We did it. We figured it out in step 2. Let's go back to step 1. That's part of it. So it's totally inefficient. And in my early career, I just wanted to please people. I wanted to please the producers, and they would say, "We're running behind. We got it." But I'm I don't think it worked. Can we try it again? And when you're doing things wrong in a way, it's you have to break the structures of the expectations. You have to say, no, I rethought it at step 3, and it's going to be better if we start over. And it's going to cost us some time, but that's okay. And the sort of the artisanal movement that's big in Portland is all about saying, well, there was a way to make an Oscar Mayer hot dog, right? We get it. It was super perfect. Every single one looked the same. And there was this process that we figured out was just it's perfect. But what if you went back to this style of making a sausage that was about some weird old grind, little machines and one guy making it, and maybe part of the process was 100 years ago, was I'm going to take a smoke break, and I'm going to come back. But somehow that made it taste much better. The efficiency has to be thrown out the window because you got to just embrace that stupid process. That's why the whole food movement of just small little things of this is this handmade cheese from this place. It's so much better because the efficient system, the right way, the way that we figured out to remove 1 minute here and 2 minutes here to make it perfect, it's gross. So, that's what I realized. I'm oh, we're making a TV show exactly like that. We are the characters on the show going oh, well, I want to do it a different way. We are those annoying characters. That's what the whole show is about people, who are just, oh God, I'm thinking about things constantly and overthinking it, but that's what makes it great. And so the other thing is you can't be too dogmatic about doing everything wrong. You got to know some right ways of doing things, and you just keep them in the back of your mind and you let things fall where they fall, and you don't force it too much. And so doing things wrong is really liberating and really fun. And this has been a light topic, but I just wanted to get serious for a minute. But I watch politics and stuff, and it's so boring. People they always do things, well, my constituents, I gotta follow. Just do it wrong. Make a disaster. No one does. Everyone's just following the polls, and they just do exactly what they do. But if one person comes out and says, I'm in support of gay marriage, everyone's like, well, yeah, that was wrong according to the polls, or something. Someone comes out in favor of it, yeah, let's do it too. I don't know, it's just, you can do things wrong. You can just, it's okay to make mistakes, and as I've learned, those mistakes are the best, and I celebrate them, and so it's a great way to get started. As we say on the set, my assistant director says, let's just start it, and we'll fix it as we go, and that's what I do. So thanks.